Chris, good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Your thoughts about where we stand with Florida State's class at number 6?
Me personally, I mean, it's a substantial difference than what it was last year, and also each year that Mike Norvell's been here. Actually, Mike Norvell's entire coaching tenure, he's never landed a class ranked this high. So I'm not. I can't be I can't be upset when one guy flips from you and one guy doesn't flip to you, but you sign 21 commits that make your class rank number 6. I can't be upset with that. I have to celebrate it. Like I'm a little bit indifferent. I understand that it's a big hit. It doesn't feel good for Georgia to come in and take your top safety or even your top recruit at the last moment. I understand that, but we traded a 5-star a 5-star tight end for a 5-star safety. We took their tight end away from them and Landon Thomas. So fair is fair. We'll see next year if he's in the portal or not.
Exactly. That's the whole other deal with this is that we don't know how long these guys are going to stick in regards to playing at these universities for a year, 2, 3, 4, and how long that's going to last. That's going to be numbers somebody's going to run 3 or 4 years from now to see what kind of retention rate these classes have. But that's to be decided later.
We did just land Denos White in this class as well. That just happened. He just committed.
Very nice. Very nice. Nice add to the D line there to go along with Jamori Flagg and D.D. Holmes. Underrated guy. Kind of like the tight end or the linebacker we got, Jaden Parrish. I think those are two names you could really see, especially in a couple of years, be some big-time players for Florida State.
I do have a question because there's someone that posted this in the comments. If any coach gets a top 10 class, would they be considered a below-average recruiter? Has anyone else been called a below-average recruiter with a top 6 class?
Not that I know of.
No, I think what happened again, it goes back to this, Chris. And the problem, one of the biggest problems in media and content, especially with 24-hour news cycle, is that something has to always be spoken. And you're always pushing things out there. And a lot of people maybe have been too positive about it, but sometimes there's no news to report. And when guys are putting stuff out there, and you've seen this happen 3 years in a row, folks start finding little things to nitpick at. And what I've suggested to FSU fans is we're falling into a trap that's a no-win situation for us. When you fight, that's why they always say you got to punch up, you don't punch down. When you're punching down, you're never in a good situation because those people are going to always move the goalpost. I just had somebody retweet me as I made a joke about, hey, take the money that we were going to give to Jeremiah Smith, give it to KJ Bolden, LJ McCray, and Mincy from Daytona Mainland. More as a joke, and the guy was like, anybody want to tell him he's a Florida fan? And I'm like, yo, it's top 10. It's people with top 10 classes talking up here. Like you stay over there. Like you don't have any room to joke about anything that's going on over here. And then at the same time, Miami fans, while they're having a really good recruiting class, understand that the game is to be played on the football field, so they can't really enjoy it because they have to find something to pick at when the reality is you want to be on the football field. But I come back and I say this to people. While we can appreciate the recruiting class that our rival has had, it's more to it than just beating your rival. We got to be able to win more games on the field. Obviously, we saw just beating our rival isn't it. But does Florida State still have a team that they're going to field that gives them the ability to win 10 to 11 games? Right now, without going into it, Mark, obviously there's still a lot of question marks. I'd feel comfortable predicting Florida State at 9 to 10 wins this year. I don't know who the quarterback is going to be, but I feel we're down between two that I believe will make us exponentially better than most of the opponents on our schedule, Notre Dame doesn't count against the ACC. So we could still go out there, and I only see Notre Dame and Clemson as the two games on the schedule right now that just give me an absolute fear outside of your natural rivalries. So, like, the goal is to win football games. And did the floor raise with this recruiting class? Is there still valuable pieces out there that you can get in the transfer portal? And do you feel like this class, or do you feel like this team gives you the opportunity to be able to achieve the standard? The standard is the standard, and it will always be the standard. And the standard is to compete for championships. Doesn't mean you're going to always win them, but it means you have to be able to compete for them. And what I would have to do is go through and I would check yes, yes, and yes. I would check all those. Florida State is still in contention for that. Now, secondary superlative gifts or prizes mean absolutely nothing to me until they start raising banners for we had the number one recruiting class in the nation. It's always measured because you can typically see like Georgia, Bama, and those guys have it. But again, when I look at teams that are consistent, even though they can't get past the first round, I look at what Michigan has been able to do. I look at what TCU has been able to do. I look at what other guys have been able to do. And good coaching will get you into a situation. Hell, having the 22nd best roster in college football isn't what prevented us from being in the college football playoff. Somebody else, 13 other people had to beat us. So I think the staff, based upon also with the schedule. Now, if we were playing Florida schedule, Mark, I ain't even gonna hold you. I'd be like, yo, this isn't good enough. Like, but for what we have in front of us and what we're consistently doing, and for what I know our 25 class could be and what I know is still in the portal, I'm okay. I like it. We got the best wide receiver class the last 2 years that we've had in years. We got one of the best secondary classes that we've had in years. Now, where we have failed and having a Blunt would have helped, we have to get better on the defensive line. And I'd argue Blunt is a DN. So that's still not even an area where I feel we needed to attack, which is D tackle.
Are there any concerns about Armando Blunt? He's the one guy that's hanging out there as just a hard commit.
Yeah, that I think it's a pretty much consensus. That's a Miami kid. I don't think we talk about losing one guy. I think that was a pretty much foregone conclusion. He could, if he picks Florida State, I think that would be the shock at this point, Mark. And just to touch on what the subject that we were all talking about right there, the early signing day changed it. It's like it's not the same as it used to be, and the 21 guys that signed, they were so locked in that people just forget about it. And we named all the different players, but back in the day, it used to be you had a lot of guys who weren't committed all the way up to signing day. You had a few flips, but it felt like Christmas when signing day got here. You got those alerts in. There was always 5 or 6 guys that you had to wait till signing day. Were they going to commit? And you had a pretty good idea. Nowadays, I mean, really, you're talking about 1 or 2 kids in the class. We didn't get the big flip that we wanted, but at the end of the day, you love it. We all predicted, I think all 3 of us predicted like 7 to 12 before the year came, and that's where they're going to end up. I love it. So, yeah, hate to lose Blunt, but yeah, it'd be a surprise if he picked the Knowles.
He didn't.
They already made it official.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a Hurricane.
But will he stay that?
That's the question.
Chris, who's the linebacker that just came in? White.
D tackle, I believe.
Oh,
yeah,
tackle. Okay.
Yeah, he's a defensive tackle. He reminds me. Okay, so he's like Jaden Parrish in this class. A lot of people didn't know a lot about him. He's one of those dogs that doesn't bark, so a lot of people didn't know about him. But he also, like you had Miami, Florida State, LSU, Texas, and Texas A&M, if I'm not mistaken, and then a couple other ACC schools that really wanted the kid. And like a lot of people were talking about him today. Hey, is this kid going to commit to Florida State? Is this the one that we were planning on picking up that people didn't anticipate? And I'm very proud of the way that he conducted himself throughout the whole process, because it was kind of he had known we wanted him for a while, but it was kind of last minute for it to be committable. And the moment that we gave him the A-OK, he committed to Florida State. So I like the guys that want to be here. But what he is as a player, I mean, I know the term dog gets thrown around a lot, but that's what he is. He's very underrated. Played at a school that didn't or doesn't get a whole lot of hype around it. And I'm not saying they don't get any, but they don't get a lot. They don't get like the IMG or Chaminade or any of that. They don't usually get that. So I'm really excited for what he's going to bring to the table as a young guy, because I believe he's beyond his years. I think he's going to be a good piece that Florida State is going to be able to utilize quicker than most people anticipate.
21 signed. Most of the other teams are a few higher than that, in the 25, 28 range, something there. Do we expect FSU to be doing any more work, whether that's in the next couple of days or toward February?
So I think with Mincy, you'll be doing work with him unless that goes out the window. As of right now, I think you've got a good shot with Mincy. There's another defensive tackle that isn't signed. I think he's ranked number 10 on the overall list. There's also a linebacker. I'm trying to remember where he's from, but Florida State's definitely doing work. There's actually going to be like 6 kids that I think that they're going to try to recruit at a heavy rate in between now and February.
Heck yeah. Yeah, Florida State, I believe the average is around 91.52, which
Yep.
is, and that's the big thing. That's the big jump this year. You know, Miami 1 or 2 spots ahead, but they've got 4 or 5 more guys, may end up with like 30. So yeah, if we could pick up a couple more guys, even if they're not big dudes, that could vault the season even up a little bit higher. But even if we don't, really happy with what we got, and we got to figure out this quarterback situation.
Yeah, it looks like Florida State's got a higher average player ranking than everybody below them, except Auburn's slightly higher. Texas A&M's only got 17 commits. They're slightly higher as well at that 91.5 number. So regardless of how you slice it, if you throw everyone in or you go average player ranking, it's a roughly top 5 to 7 class in the country. So now it's time to retain them and develop them and get them ready to win championships.
And I think, Mark, that's where I think, in my eyes, Norvell and the staff has proven to do their best work as far as developing talent. I mean, that's what I see, whether it's from the portal or whether it's Pat Payton or somebody that was here before they got here or someone they recruited in like Armella. To me, that's basically what I hang my hat on as a Florida State fan, first and foremost. Secondly, to cover them. I mean, you can't deny that the 22nd most talented roster is what Florida State had last year, from according to most. And you went 13-0 with it. According to Miami's roster, their roster was better than ours. Also, according to the rankings, their roster was better than ours. They had 8 5-stars on their team at Miami. That's more wins than they had.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah, it's that's what I've been trying to tell everybody. If you look at the trajectory of what Mike Norvell's done, it's been a steady, not to be cliche, but it's been a steady climb. A little bit better, a little bit better. You don't get lost in the moment. People, like I said, we got excited. We had a shot to go at number 1, but you still got a top 5 to 10 class. You still got a top 5 quarterback, top 5 running back, all those good things. It's just an exciting time. Can't wait to see Mike Norvell get his hands on these things. And also, you've got 15 3-stars coming out of the back end. That floor is steadily getting raised, and this is probably the most considerable upgrade in talent thus far. When you look at it all across the board, when it comes to the high school talent, it's going to be a major shock. And I think people are going to really be surprised at just kind of the overall level of play when they get out on the field. I think, especially that offensive line, people are going to really be surprised this coming year. John Daniels, Jaden Todd, what's the third one? Jaden Todd, Jonathan Daniels, and there's one more offensive lineman we signed. Oh, Manasa Tite out of California. I mean, that's a good trio of linemen to go along with what you have.
So we're very early in the transfer portal cycle. Marvin Jones Jr. is the one pickup from Georgia off the edge. Of course, he's a legacy, and he comes back home. It became common knowledge across college football that what Mike Norvell did in the transfer portal was probably the best job of any outside of Dion, who had to build an entire roster. But in terms of contenders, in terms of the main players in college football, he did the best job of in terms of quantity and quality of players. But one so far, we're very early in the process. Do we think that he's going to make the kind of moves that he did last year? Is he going to need to make that many moves? Certain positions, do you think, are in play?
He's going to make the moves that are necessary. And I know that's a very broad answer, but no, he won't have to pull in the type of or the amount of players that he had to the previous years, even including last year. You don't really need to. You might go get one wide receiver, maybe, but last year you needed 4. And then tight end wise, you might bring in one where you brought in 2 or 3. At the quarterback position, you didn't bring in any. You're going to bring in one. At running back, you're probably not going to bring in anyone unless it's the right guy. It's also in this particular, the first portal opening, I don't think he's going to have to take that many because we have to be honest. The portal is oversaturated right now with a bunch of talent that's in it. The issue is that talent necessary to what where your floor is right now? Are they good enough to raise the floor? And the answer to that is, in the majority, is no. So the next portal class, which getting closer to spring, is the one that we usually hit pretty hard. So I think the reason of that being is because then guys find out, hey, I don't like the direction that that the team's going in. I don't like the role that I'm playing. I can do more than this. I'm going to rotate with 4 guys that I shouldn't have to if I go elsewhere, etc. You might pull a defensive tackle, but that it's like really you might pull 6 to 10 guys at most in my eyes. Maybe more because you didn't get 28 in this class or 25. So you might make it up to 13 or so. But I don't know if it's necessary because of the talent that's coming back. Like, I know that everyone's focused on Jared versus leaving. Kalen DeLoach, that's the position I should have started with. Linebacker is probably who you'll pull in from the portal. But you have 2 guys that did have significant amount of snaps this year, Nichols and Omar Graham Jr. I think people are sleeping on both of those young men. I think they're going to be huge parts of Florida State's success. But everyone has an expectation that you're supposed to be bringing in Marvin Jones seniors and Derek Brookses, and it's not the type of football we play anymore. They technically are oversized or undersized DBs is technically what you're running with these guys. So the nickel spot, maybe you pull someone and being a linebacker / safety, but you see what we have in Conrad Hussey. You see what you've got in Azaria Thomas. Like the corners, the DBs in my eyes are taken care of. The wide receivers, other than if it's just a Keon Coleman type, you don't need nobody. Running back wise, I don't see how you need anybody. Linebacker, maybe you take another defensive end. I don't think you need it, but maybe you would. Defensive tackle, I would say you take 1 or 2. But this is where Mike does his best work. So, he has to show me that he's not going to do it for me to believe he's not going to. So, it's to me, you're going to attack the portal of necessities.